Starting today, kids in the country illegally can access Medi-Cal. Why immigrant advocates say it's a start, but it's not enough. And we take a look at the health of San Diego's dams by the numbers. How many are high risk, and how many don't have evacuation plans in place? That's coming up.
The Earth is telling us a story that we should be able to interpret.
And it's not just coastal regions that will be affected by rising sea levels. We take a look at how climate change is actually slowing down Earth's orbit. This is Evening Edition on KPBS. Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabolsi. Today marks the first day California children and teens who were brought illegally to the U.S. are gaining access to Medi-Cal. State officials estimate as many as 185,000 young people under the age of 19 will sign up for publicly funded health care in the first year. That is about 3/4 of the estimated 250,000 who are now eligible. Lawmakers and immigrants' rights advocates rallied outside the Capitol in support of other bills that aim to continue expanding Medi-Cal coverage.
We have many immigrants who are here to stay. They're not going anywhere, any place, anytime soon. So what do we do with them that are here? Let's educate their children. Let's make sure their children are productive citizens, that they can contribute to the economy of California.
And Governor Jerry Brown included $188 million in the state budget plan to cover young people expected to get full-scope Medi-Cal coverage. And California Governor Jerry Brown will seek state funds to help establish a system that issues alerts that an earthquake is occurring, with an eye on rolling out a limited system by 2018. The governor set aside $10 million in his budget revision for the system. It's being developed by the U.S. Geological Survey and university researchers.
Money that would go towards earthquake early warning would pay for sensors. We do have sensors in California, and there is somewhat of a system for early warning, but there's nowhere near enough sensors for the 200 faults that need to be monitored accurately. And then it's not a matter of just putting it in there, but then how do we get all those sensors to talk to each other, transmit the information from really remote areas, integrate it, and it has to be computed. So it's obviously going to take money to not only put in the technology, but then also pay for its maintenance and then teaching people what it means and how it can affect them, either a business or a person.
And seismic early warning systems are designed to detect the first shock waves from a large jolt, calculate the strength, and alert people before the slower but damaging waves spread. Backers of an initiative to increase the state's tobacco tax say they've got enough signatures to get it on the ballot for November. If approved by voters, the measure would raise the tax on cigarettes by $2 a pack. California currently has one of the lowest cigarette taxes in the country at 87 cents. New York has the highest at $4.35 a pack, while Virginia is the lowest at 30 cents. The measure is backed by billionaire environmentalist Tom Steyer, medical groups, and organized labor. California business leaders are examining how an upcoming ballot measure for recreational marijuana may be good for business. Bill advocates say it will increase jobs throughout the industry as well as jobs in the state's regulation of the substance. Critics worry about workplace protection for employers who wish to penalize their employees for turning up high to work.
We are making sure that there are adequate workplace protections for employers so that if it does pass, that there won't be any impact on any employers regarding the laws and litigation if someone is consuming, marijuana, both from a smoking standpoint or an edible standpoint.
California voters will weigh in on the measure in the November elections. Another Mexican judge has approved the extradition of drug lord Joaquin El Chapo Guzman to the United States. But Mexico's Foreign Affairs Ministry still gets the final say on whether he is sent to the U.S., and that could happen within 20 days. But even if the Mexican government okays extradition, Guzman can still appeal, so it could be months before he comes to the U.S. to face federal charges. San Diego is one of 7 jurisdictions with cases against Guzman. There are more than 50 dams in San Diego County. Reporter Joe Girardi took a look at how likely they are to fail and what happens if they do. And he joins us now as part of News in Numbers, a series from KPBS media partner iNewsSource. Joe, let's just please establish first, how many dams do we have in the county and are they safe?
So we've got 54 dams in the county, and according to inspection reports I reviewed, all were judged safe for continued use. An impressive feat considering that the average dam here is 62 years old.
Right, so 54 dams, they tend to be fairly old. How dangerous could a dam failure be here?
Potentially catastrophic. Each dam is assigned a hazard rating, with a high hazard rating meaning that a dam's failure would likely lead to deaths. But the government hasn't released hazard ratings since 2002, citing concerns over terrorism. The 2002 data shows that 20 dams were considered high hazard, including the dams at Lake Hodges and the San Vicente Reservoir.
So what are authorities supposed to do if a dam does in fact fail?
It's best practice for the owners of high-hazard dams to have an emergency action plan. These documents serve as a blueprint for dam owners, local first responders, and state government to figure out when and how to evacuate people who are threatened by the dam failure. Most states require these, but California does not. In San Diego County, 7 dams don't have them, and that includes 2 dams rated as high hazard in 2002.
Okay, thanks for keeping us informed, Joe Girardi of iNewsSource.
No problem, Maya.
And to see a map and database of the dams, including their inspection reports and hazard ratings, you can go to iNewsSource.org. San Diego's investor-owned utility is spending $7.5 million over 5 years to encourage the transition to electrically powered cars. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson has details.
San Diego Gas and Electric says it'll spend the money to raise awareness to dramatically expand the number of drivers using electric cars. Jeff Martin is the utility's chairman, president, and CEO. He wants to see a major change in the next 4 years.
In our region, we have over 20,000 electric vehicles on our roads, and we hope to increase that number to 80,000 by 2020.
The company is considering new pricing structures that make it cheaper to charge cars in the middle of the day when there's a surplus of solar-produced electricity. The education effort also comes in addition to a $45 million pilot project recently approved by California regulators. That program commits the utility to install 3,500 charging stations around the county.
Well, thank you and good morning, everybody.
San Diego City Council member Mark Kersey says getting rid of range anxiety eliminates a major obstacle.
With more workplaces and businesses able to provide charging for their customers as well as their employees, it will be easier for them to drive an electric vehicle 20 or more miles to downtown, to our beaches, to Mission Bay, without having to worry if they'll be able to have enough battery power to actually make it home.
Electric cars are seen as an obvious way to reduce the state's greenhouse gas emissions, since 40% of those gases come from cars and trucks. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
More than 50 wounded military veterans and active service members took to the tennis courts today as part of the 5th annual National Wounded Warrior Tennis Camp at the Balboa Tennis Club.
Twyla Adams is an Army veteran from North Carolina and is back at the camp for the 3rd time. After becoming quadriplegic, a fellow veteran encouraged her to try the camp. She came out, borrowed a tennis wheelchair, but had a hard time pushing it at first.
But after a while, I got the hang of it, and then I got my own chair the following year, and I just go out and learn to push as much as I possibly can to strengthen my muscles and become a better tennis player.
The camp offers more than just tennis lessons. It also gives emotional support.
There you go, good.
And helps vets reintegrate back into the community. The on-court sessions therapeutically help improve hand-eye coordination, balance, strength, and endurance.
And the camp runs through Thursday. Students at UC San Diego are voting this week on a proposal to move the school's athletic program to Division I. Currently, UCSD competes at the Division II level. Similar proposals to move to Division I were rejected by students in 2004 and 2012. But student leaders say there's a new generation of students on campus. A yes vote would increase students' athletic fees by $480 a year. That increase would be phased in over 3 years. If approved, UC San Diego would look for an invitation from the Big West Conference, currently home to 4 other University of California schools. Student voting starts online today and runs through Friday.
For courage and composure in ending a deadly rampage, Officer Salas, Officer Sparks, and Captain Bottenfield place themselves in mortal danger to save the lives of students and staff during a school shooting on the busy campus of Santa Monica College.
3 Santa Monica officers, Jason Salas, Robert Sparks, and Captain Raymond Bottenfield, were honored today at the White House for their response to a 2013 rampage on a community college campus that left 5 people dead. The officers confronted the 23-year-old gunman in the campus library and shot him when he pointed his assault weapon at them. A Los Angeles police officer was also honored, while off-duty Donald Thompson crossed 2 freeway dividers and suffered second-degree burns while pulling an unconscious man from a burning car. In total, 13 officers were honored today for exceptional courage.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next News Hour, we break down the math versus the movement in the Democratic race for the White House. That's Monday on the PBS News Hour.
Mild temperatures and cloudy skies are expected in San Diego this week. Molly Cochran says a thunderstorm is headed to some parts of the county tomorrow. That's tonight in KPBS's weather report.
Well, much of the Golden State going to be staying dry over the next couple days. As we take a look at our radar and satellite, really not too much to show across California. One thing I do want to point out, though, is that we do have a nice marine layer setting up. So each morning we see those low clouds around, and then in the afternoon we start to get sunny. So that could definitely cause for a few problems over the next couple days if you have any flights out of San Diego, LA, or perhaps San Francisco. Farther inland, we'll see some showers and some thunderstorms. We do have a disturbance pushing into the southwest, but that's really how it's going to stay across the interior sections of the region. So as we bring it closer to home for tonight, we'll remain relatively quiet and dry. Barely can even tell this is working because it's just mainly clear for the afternoon hours and into the early evening. Now, late tonight, we'll start to see some of those clouds move back into the region, waking up with them as well. Our overnight lows, pretty seasonable for this time of year, going to be staying in the lower 60s. Elsewhere in the upper 50s for Oceanside, back towards Ramona in the lower 50s, Mount Laguna a little bit cooler in the higher terrain. Our overnight lows in the upper 30s. Into the second day of the work week, notice that although we're staying dry, we do have a little bit of a dip in the jet stream, so that's going to help keep us cool across the immediate coastline back towards San Francisco, LA, and also that marine layer that I was mentioning earlier. That's mainly due to this little dip in the jet stream here. So the clouds responsible for the jet stream responsible for some of those clouds, but we will be pretty quick to clear up by the afternoon. Some showers and thunderstorms farther inland. Phoenix looks to be okay, and Las Vegas, if you're getting away, have some getaway plans here, could potentially run into a few showers into Tuesday. Along the immediate coastline, we'll have some clouds breaking up each day, at least into the middle half of the week, with some sunshine, daytime highs in the 70s, feeling pretty comfortable. Then as we head into Thursday, partly cloudy skies. Some of those clouds linger into the afternoon with a high of 72. Across the interior sections, pretty similar setup here. Daytime highs in the lower 70s, overnight lows in the 60s, and we will have some of those clouds linger into the early morning hours. Across the mountains, we could be dealing with an afternoon thunderstorm by Tuesday. We could be talking some lightning as well as some smaller sized hail, so do keep that in mind. Then into the middle half of the week, looking nice. Mostly sunny skies Wednesday and Thursday, and our temperature is going to be getting into the 70s. Across the desert, it is heating up. By the time we head into Thursday, we're in the mid-90s with sunshine. Then we will fall cooler into the later half of the week. Molly Cochran, KPBS News.
Now, if you ever feel like there isn't enough time in the day, well, here's some good news. Days on Earth are actually getting longer. Well, it's probably not good news at all because the cause is climate change. KPBS science reporter David Wagner spoke with a scientist known as the Einstein of the oceans to understand how rising sea levels are slowing down the Earth's rotation.
At 98 years old, Walter Munk has been around for more rotations of the Earth than most. The Austrian-born scientist began his career at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography at the dawn of World War II. When I show up to his seaside home in La Jolla for an interview, he tells me he's still busy working on new scientific papers.
Yeah, I'm working on a problem that has been puzzling for 100 years.
But today I'm here to talk about Earth's rotation, a subject Munk has been an expert in since 1960 when he co-wrote a book called The Rotation of the Earth.
It was not a bestseller.
The academic text may not have made him much money, but Munk says he became fascinated by the Earth's rotation because it provides clues about so many other things happening on the planet.
I think that the Earth is telling us a story that we should be able to interpret.
Munk says one story told by Earth's rotation is the story of sea level rise. The speed of Earth's rotation is actually not fixed at 24 hours. It can change depending on where Earth holds its mass. And when ice melts at the poles, mass gets redistributed. Water moves toward the equator when it melts, and that slows down Earth's rotation, kind of like how a ballerina's pirouette slows down when she extends her arms.
So the Earth adjusts itself.
And when the Earth adjusts to sea level rise, its spin rate gets slower. It may sound surprising, but it's true. Climate change is actually making days on Earth longer. But only slightly longer. It all adds up to about 6 millionths of a second each year.
It doesn't bother you in your daily life, but it's a nice way to learn something.
It turns out lots of things affect Earth's rotation, like waves crashing on shorelines, and the ongoing mass redistribution caused by the end of the last ice age. Now, Munk knew to account for these factors, but when he tried to add everything up back in 2002, he noticed something strange. Earth didn't appear to be slowing down as much as it should, given all the sea level rise that had happened during the 20th century. Now, he knew that climate change was causing sea levels to rise, but that just wasn't showing up in current measurements of the Earth's rotation. 14 years ago, he published a paper about this problem, which became known as Munk's Enigma.
Munk's paper could not have been written by anyone else but Munk.
Harvard University geophysicist Jerry Mitrovica says Munk was issuing a challenge to the scientific community, a challenge he decided to take up.
He didn't say you're all wrong. He's saying there are big problems here, right? And these need to be resolved.
Recently, Mitrovica published a paper about resolving Munk's enigma. He and his colleagues say Munk's calculations were a bit off due to 3 highly technical limitations. First, Munk relied on estimates of 20th century sea level rise that have been revised in recent years. Sea levels did rise in the 20th century, but not as much as scientists once thought. Second, the Ice Age model Munk used also had some shortcomings. It too has been tweaked since Munk first put forward his enigma. And third, Mitrovica says Munk's original calculations didn't account for some complicated physics involving the Earth's core and mantle that also affect the Earth's rotation. With these 3 changes, Mitrovica says the numbers now do add up. Recent sea level rise has indeed slowed down the Earth's rotation.
To resolve this enigma required a decade of work and progress in 3 very different parts of Earth science.
Munk says he's glad to see scientists build on his work and prove that days are in fact getting measurably longer due to climate change.
And I find it very rewarding and very satisfying that work like this, when you found some things did not add up, inspired people in subsequent years to do some additional work to try and understand it, and in some instances to succeed. I mean, that's the way science should work.
At 98, Munk is still trying to sort out other tough issues in oceanography. He says there are plenty of other problems scientists in his field have yet to solve.
1,000 years ago when sea level was lower.
David Wagner, KPBS News.
And video journalist Katie Shulov helped produce that story. It's floating around you all the time, a wafting cloud formed by millions of bacteria that fall off your body with every move that you make. At the University of Oregon, researchers have revealed that not only can they detect and catalog this personal microbial cloud, but each person's cloud is quite unique. Here's the story from SciTech Now.
When you're sitting in this room as a participant, you're hyper aware of how you're behaving. Do I really need to scratch that itch? Am I going to run my hands through my hair? Am I emitting particles just by doing that?
Roxana Hickey is not normally a guinea pig in an experiment. As a microbial ecologist, she's usually the experimenter, not the experimentee.
Humans actually spend up to 90% of their lives indoors, and so the fact that we're being constantly exposed to that environment is a good reason to study what kinds of things we're contributing and picking up from that environment.
Things floating in the air like bacteria and viruses. Billions of organisms all around you all the time. Being aware of them might make you a little self-conscious. But for Roxana Hickey and the researchers at the Biology and the Built Environment Center, it's also a cause for celebration.
So we study the fate and transport of microbes the way you would ecosystems, and to also consider that they may not be necessarily harmful.
Or exotic either.
We saw that humans were a very strong force in influencing what's going on in the indoor environment, and that pattern has emerged time and time and again.
Just how big can our influence be on the indoor microbiome? To find out, you need a very large and very controlled petri dish of sorts.
Right now, we're sitting in the climate chamber at the Energy Studies in Buildings Laboratory. So this room is a unique research tool where we have the ability to control pretty much all of the environmental variables that exist in here. So temperature, relative humidity, airflow rate, and that gives us a great opportunity to be able to sample the particles that are surrounding an individual in a room.
You also need a good clean, or rather dirty, set of samples.
The participants were asked not to bathe or shower the morning of the experiment. They were also asked not to apply any products to their skin or wear perfumes or deodorants. The participant walks in here, they sit down, and then we just collect the air while they're waiting.
And it doesn't take much to get our microbiome airborne.
On the human body, we have trillions of bacteria inhabiting every environment. For example, our skin, we have a skin microbiome that is distinct from our gut microbiome. We have microbes in the urogenital tract. We have them on our feet, our hands.
So if you touch a human being or you touch a surface, then you can transfer your human microbiome to that surface. And then we are also directly shedding microbes from our bodies. So when your skin sloughs, for example, that's one mechanism. It then gets suspended on our chairs, on our tabletops, on the floor, and then just by moving about, those end up getting resuspended and we're exposed to them that way.
And so by using this controlled chamber, the researchers captured airborne microbes on petri dishes and sterile filters.
So once we get them back to the lab, we use a buffer to wash the cells off into solution, and then we use that solution to extract DNA, and we use that information and variations in that code to determine what types of bacteria and fungi we have in that sample.
Revealing a very human picture.
Even just the act of sitting there gives off enough microbes for us to be able to detect a person in a room.
So we really are surrounded by a microbial cloud. What exactly is in that cloud?
The main types of bacteria that are found in the cloud are going to be skin and oral associated microbes, and so these would be things like Staphylococcus, Propionibacterium, for instance.
But that's not all they found.
We also have time and time again seen a significant number of gut-associated microbes in the indoor environment.
But having so-called fecal bacteria wafting around you should neither surprise or alarm you.
Most of the microbes that are found, even in our gut and our urogenital tract, those are healthy microbes. We need those to be healthy. And so the fact that they're everywhere is not alarming. It's just part of the natural dynamics of microbial communities on our bodies.
What is surprising is how unique our microbial impact can be.
We can compare the particles that are in the room when different individuals are present at different times, and their individual microbial clouds actually are distinct from one another.
Now it's a small sample size, and we are now asking questions such as, can you identify an individual out of a crowd?
We're trying to understand how far these particles actually move. If a person is just sitting in a chair, are the microbial clouds getting mixed together?
How long do they last? What activities affect them? Can they change your own microbiome? If sitting in a room by yourself pondering these questions leaves you feeling a little self-conscious, you're not alone.
I am sitting in an ecosystem right now. It's where I'm going to spend 90% of my life, and I don't know anything about this ecosystem.
And you can see more stories like that one on SciTech Now, Sundays at 5:30 right here on KPBS television. NASA's last remaining space shuttle external tank made a stop off in San Diego today. The ET-94 is on its way to the California Science Center in Los Angeles. Now it's being carried up the coast by a tugboat and it will be on display with the Space Shuttle Endeavour. The external tanks detached from the shuttles during liftoff and burned up in the atmosphere. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. From all of us here at KPBS, thanks for watching and have a great evening. Good night.